Alrighty then. We are back in action. We've got more bells and whistles than we've ever had before. And we're going to be able to pull some strings that we typically aren't. So that will be nice. Getting everything loaded up here. We are in for one hell of a race today. Ooh, announced bot already yelling at me. Turn him off real quick as we get the bells and whistles dialed in there. And we'll rotate the map so you guys can get a good sense of the actual direction that we'll be looking at today. And see what you're looking at. There you go. So as far as the wind goes, that is what these guys are going up against. So we've got a special guest appearance from Cheddar the Graded in the Z4. Cheddar's been setting some record times down as far as a 125 around these parts. So Cheddar feeling right at home. They will not be affecting the overall points for the season. Just call it a celebrity appearance for today's event. We'll see who all gets connected as we've got 3 racers joining the grid now. Looks like Big Dean Energy already announcing that they'll be with us shortly there. Everybody looking to get dialed in, so exciting stuff all around. Let's take a look at these standings here. We're going to transfer over just momentarily, and we'll keep the sound going for you. But right now we have Bullet in first place in the rookie class, followed by Miguel Cizeron, and then the Inferno. You can see that's a nice tight race going on there. In the amateur class, we've got Fudzy Hunter and Big Dean Energy. And honestly, Slay as well. He's not too far out of the fight. So we'll see that one coming right down to the end. In the pro class, we got Project Purple narrowly defending from a 3-way tie going on behind with Zero to Hero, Seb, and Patchy. I believe Seb is confirmed not going to be with us today. Let me just double check my facts on that one momentarily. Yes, and it looks like Veggie Tota will not be with us as well, although I don't see them in the standing, so might be confused, or they might just race under another name, as we've got a few who do that here. Anyway, in the pro class, we've got that battle going on, and then Rev 174 trying to fight to catch up. And then the expert class, we have Boat holding off strong in the Lamborghini with El Garito, Botlando, and Tommy Boy not too far behind. Botlando and Tommy Boy have been sticking close together, but Botlando's been pulling out ahead on quite a few occasions. Hopefully we'll see Tommy Boy's return, although I know they might still be on the men. I believe they had a shoulder issue or something going on last time we checked in, so hoping to see Tommy back at some point. Gonna be 2 20-minute ones today. We'll head on back to the action. And kind of go from there. El Garito blessing us with his presence from across the pond. He's holding pretty strong. He's got a chance to catch up to this Lamborghini, but Boat is notorious for showing up when it matters. Does Boat still have drops left? Let's take a look. They do. So we might not even see Boat today. They could be taking this one as an additional drop before heading into the Olton Park race for the finale. Not next week, but the following week. Cheddar the Graded through the Zeppelin curve. Looking pretty good with a lot of speed there. We switched over to El Garito the Great, but Cheddar carrying enough pace to set up another 125 there. Slowly creeping forward with the best time in the session, but not getting up to their personal best. So still have a little bit of pace to find overall. You see Hunter now not only loading in, but heading right out and onto the track. So they are ready to get some test laps in. Seems everybody is eager to get as much practice in as they can. Currently 19 degrees on the track, so nothing too crazy. It'll be nice and gentle on the softs with a 10-kilometer-an-hour crosswind, a little bit of a headish direction for this main straightaway. But the back straightaway, which it seems like Hunter is, or no, not Hunter, El Garito is slowly working towards. It's going to get a little bit of help there. Not too much. It's not really the best direction. Unfortunately, we are not going to have Java with me tonight. He's in the process of moving, I believe, to Arizona. So he is probably driving a box truck still at the moment. Maybe he's just listening in to us as we speak. We'll see if any of the other broadcasters end up joining us at some point today, but I think it is just going to be me. Looking at the live times here, it looks like Tommy Boy actually put in a few practice laps between the EU race earlier today and now. So that does seem like a good sign. We'll see them on the grid. We've got Bot Lando putting in a couple of laps. And same with a few other racers who I don't believe are signed up for this season. So see how many of our season racers end up joining us today. Just peeking into the logs here as well. Doesn't look like we have any issues just yet, so. With 6 racers on now, going to start to see a little bit of pace, or rather 6 racers in the server as Tommy Boy hears us talking about him and loads on in there. Tell on, still coming over a little bit of a cold here as we head into another week of racing. Haven't been broadcasting much myself. I know they've touched up on it on some of the other streams, but the phenomenal, which is an understatement, community that we've got over at Real Rookie Racing got together and, well, let's just say gave me one hell of a gift. You can see a little bit more on the Discord, but they knocked it out of the park. So I've been trying to get a little bit more driving in, make a good use for it, but the broadcaster duties call as we get closer and closer to the end of the season and the battles start to shake themselves out. Currently looking over at the live timings board, we don't really have enough laps in to see where things are starting to head. 35 minutes remaining of practice, so it'll be some time before we see anybody jumping on in. Currently with the Paper Cup Porch through McDonald's. And I'm going to say that's the name of the turn into the straightaway. Shell curve would be the turn into the chicane there. I'm going to take over with the drone cam momentarily here. And let's take a look with Cheddar and trying to decipher how he's getting some of those lap times together. We will turn auto cam off for the moment. Oop. There you go. Sorry. Relearning buttons on the new computer there, or the new setup rather, but Cheddar the Graded carrying some magnificent speed. It looks like currently on an outlap, so probably just testing a couple of lines through as they find a straight one through the chicane. Looking at the track map, you wouldn't guess that that's as tight as the chicane as it is, but that is going to be an area where you do not want to try and pass. This is going to be our first long look at the track, as we've been switching through this TV cams for a little bit, but you'll get a good sense of what the drivers are up against now. So we aren't seeing a lot of great passing chances. This is going to be one into the final straightaway where positioning will matter. Down the Volkswagen Street, an easy one to name, into the hotel, which is almost a little bit of a spoon curve there. Jesus doing a great job of carrying the pace now. A little bit up on the Delta, taking their time, finding those apexes, and you can see the way they hammer down on that throttle with a ton of confidence. We're not seeing any little blips here that show a misstep or a miscalculation in the timing, so that comfort is there. Full 2.5 seconds ahead of the grid currently. Tommy Boy did set up a 27.9 during the earlier practice sessions, but still warming up the tires. Might have a little bit of time before we see that from him. As always, grip level starting at 100% off the bat, so these guys will be able to set their top times right away. They don't need to break it in too hard. They do want to keep an eye on that weather. Won't be changing during practice, so they'll be able to stay comfortable, but during qual, they will have 2 possible weather changes. And you never know when the wind will be in your favor. Now, the nice thing about this track is the 2 straightaways are opposing one another. So where the wind will help with one, it will hurt on the other. So we'll call this the Sig straight. The Paper Cup Porsche heads through the shell curve into Ahmad with an easy exit in towards in towards Zeppelin. I will say you don't see these guys abusing that green curb too much. I'm not sure if maybe the curves just drive a little bit stiffer for some cars than others. But from what we could see earlier, you definitely want to be using those track limits. I wouldn't say abusing, but definitely taking the car out as far as you can in a couple of spots. This one being one we saw Cheeses hanging out wide in that Z4 for a little bit as Slay goes for a little bit of a tighter apex, and we see it cost him as he runs into the grass momentarily. Setting up for a big entry into the spoon. And for a slow corner, these cars are handling it pretty well. A lot of them are built to want to whip through, but everyone's being able to take their time, find the pace as needed. Looks like we've got a few other racers starting to join in now. 8 in the server as Botlando loads in the GTR. See Botlando and Tommy Boy actually in the chat together, so that'll be kind of funny to see how those teammates go. They are currently leading the manufacturers up before any of the dropped races. We see the Inferno letting Jesus go by through the shell curve and into Ahmad. Sorry about that. Back. See the glowing of those brakes as the Inferno pushing them hard into Hotel. Let's take a look with some other racers that we haven't checked in on. Rev 174 looking to catch up a little bit towards that battle between Patchy, Seb, and Zero. I believe with Seb is not going to be here today, so that'll be a chance for a few more points based on the previous weeks. That is the one thing when you take your drops that other people in your class have a bigger opportunity to catch up, as it's one less competitor for them. Speaking of competition, you see Cheddar the Great still pushing incredibly hard, catching up to Rev now through Shell and Amon. Seems to be a pattern. That's where, he likes to put the pressure on. And the pressure indeed, as Rev falls victim to it in the 904. We'll turn over to Tommy Boy now, heading through triple. Understandable why it's named that. It's a good series of turns there. The 90 car looking pretty quick at the moment, as he takes a shortcut, it seems, through McDonald's. Not sure if he remembered that you got to turn a little bit, but he'll make the most of it either way. Tommy with the pace through Bauer. Just going to check in on something real quick. All right, Tommy Boy on the run through Hotel here. He's got a decent amount of pace as he's on his outlap, so we can't fully see where he's at. I'm trying to take a look at the live times here. Has not completed a sector yet, so we don't have a great sense of where he's at. First one on the board. It is not a personal best, but a 26.8 at least keeps him relatively competitive. Only half a second off the pace of Cheddar up top. But I think we're going to see a little bit of a track limits violation there from Tommy. I'm looking to see if we get a red sector 2 on the live timings momentarily. Hearing a lot of grass as we are struggling to keep that thing on the road. That is definitely going to be a violation of track limits there, whether the live timings acknowledges it or not, as he heads into shell curve, and there it is. So officially confirmed, Tommy Boy with a cut. This lap will not be setting a top time. We'll check in on the purple 13 car of Hunter, making their way down the 6th straight. It's got about 0.9 seconds to the man in front, Slay. Hunter trying to hold Slay off this race, so he's definitely going to be looking to find that time. Frankly, a full second is what he needs to send any type of a strong message here. Check in with his sponsors as he heads down the straightaway. Eggs, milk, bananas, bread, ham, pepper, and bacon. The most important sponsors of them all. Very excited to see how everybody pushes through as the grid gets bigger and bigger here. 9 racers on as Patchy joins us also from across the pond. And we see the times are all still pretty close together. So no one's really breaking out. I'm not seeing any necessary cause for concern from these guys. They all still have a chance at the man in front, but the full grid still isn't here. 24 minutes remaining in practice. This is the time of the season where things get interesting because people are trying to calculate if they can take a dropped race here or there. Uh, we do get a time zone change next week that might throw things off. So we'll see who is able to race all the way through to the end, will come out on top. Right now, the only person looking comfortable is Bullet in the rookie class. Maybe Fuzzy in amateur, but even then, 8 points is not a hard gap to close with plenty of racing left to go in the season. As these guys will technically have 2 races today and one more to go after that. Looks like Fuzzy is going to be away as well. So that'll give Dean an opportunity to make up some points. Dean does need to finish ahead of Hunter to try and get to Fuzzy. Well, actually, I think Fuzzy doesn't want Hunter necessarily to start catching up, as Hunter's the one currently trying to chase down Fuzzy in front. Not sure. It's really a close one between P2, 3, and 4 in that class. I wouldn't say anybody's safe just yet. Take a look over at Patchy, who's in that part of that 3-way tie for second place in the pro class. 93 Porsche looking pretty good. I believe El Garito the Great is in a similar livery, just the number 7 car. As you see, a nice little Porsche on Porsche battle going. Slay 40 trying to follow the line of Patchy in front. A little interclass racing between the amateur and pro class. That Paper Cup Porsche looks good even from a distance, I will say. Checking in on the live timings, Tommy Boy puts up a green sector 1, so we'll swing over to check in on him in just a minute. Patchy, though, looking to set a time as they come around one of the final bends through Zeppelin and into the straightaway. As we grab onto Slay behind, Patchy going to go with a 130.4. Slay a 130.2, but isn't able to get a clean one in on the 130.2. Patchy definitely going to be looking to make some improvements there. Let's check in on Tommy Boy, who puts up a 127.9 that previous lap, but a 127.8 as the best time overall. Currently off to another good start in Sector 1. It was 2 and 3 where he lost it last time. Not sure which one exactly. Looks to be more like Sector 3, based on some of the competing times around. As seems to be carrying good pace through Sector 2, almost half a second up on his Delta into the spoon and towards McDonald's. As he heads into the SIG straight with a little bit of speed, he is probably going to hit that 0.5 mark, and it'll come down to Sector 3 as his opportunity to get ahead and start closing that gap to the 125.2 of Jesus in front. Rev with one hell of a heater, a 127.8 in that BMW. Although that car is going to be feeling right at home here in Germany. Tommy, though, cutting almost a full second. It will be a full second off of his lap time, dropping to a 126.8. That is a huge jump and actually starts to put Cheddar a little bit in the hot seat. That 2.5 second lead that we saw for the first 15 minutes of practice is really starting to disappear. as Cheddar desperately trying to get into the 124s before these guys figure out how to shave off that final second before we get a little bit of competitive racing going. Tommy Boy with a pace that's going to put him in no man's land in a race for P2 at the moment. Let's take a look at ye old faithful Botlando, where there's one GTR on the pace. There typically is a second one, as both of these guys almost mirror each other as we see race after race. For those of you who haven't watched before, they will be typically bumper to bumper for at least the first race. Reverse grid, sometimes misfortunes happen, as the 98 car of Botlando looking decent through Amman curve, shaving 2 seconds off their time currently. Hopefully that is not 2 seconds off of 10 minutes only, but we'll see. It could be another 10-minute lap. We'll find out in just a moment here. And it is not. It's a 127.6, so starting to catch up to Tommy Boy in front. Does put himself in front of Rev 174 in the BMW. That 904 car. Tommy Boy gets a little bit scared and disconnects from the server. Although I think after a moment to calm his nerves, he will be right back with us. Till then, Botlando sitting pretty in P2 here in practice. Again, these guys don't really have to be pushing their qualifying pace just yet. It is a 2x20, so I imagine we're going to be seeing soft tires all the way through to the end. And they really just kind of be able to settle in here with the final 17 minutes of action. Seems like most of the grid is going to be taking this one, though, as we get closer and closer to game time. We don't see too many out there. How bizarre. I think I got my first pop-up ad in like 9 years. But the ad is now gone. Taking a look at the live timings, Patchy is finally on a chance for a heater, so I'll check in with them as they swing around in the 93 car toward the SIG straight. You will see the vehicle of Hunter up front, heading through Shell and Amman now. Patchy looking to do the same with a little bit of extra pace. Half a second gain so far on this current lap. Currently putting up clean times, not necessarily green times. It'll all come down to this final exit, but the Porsche starting to find itself a little far off the pace here. Patchy needing to find a second just to catch up to El Garito in front, and then another second beyond that to catch up to Tommy Boy. So that is going to be an interesting one to see how it plays out. I think we have found a track that is at home for the Z4s and the GTRs, which is quite a weird combo. Hopefully some of these mid field cars in between can make something happen. I do believe Big Dean Energy is going to be joining us today. We're still waiting to see them. So that will put us at least a 10-car grid. But with so many close battles, I'm waiting to see a few other names. I don't believe Jackie Back is going to be with us tonight after their stellar performance last week. Zach D and Daffer are some that we would like to see. Floaty as well, hopefully join us at some point. Nemanism and Christian C. Christian C and Chris C we did see in the MX5 battle. Hopefully we'll see these guys pop back in on GT3 at some point before the end of the season. Same goes for a few other guys here. Miguel Ciceron and Bullet, of course, are still fighting it out. Inferno looks like he's going to get a few easy points unless Miguel Cicerone is Vegetoda, who said they would not be racing tonight. In which case, that makes a bit more sense. Also looking for Zero to Hero, who's a part of that massive tie for a P2, but Zero notorious for joining a little bit later on. Hopefully they do, as it's always fun to see them in the events. Been hanging out with Patchy for a moment here. Doesn't look like he's going to do anything special this lap. Taking a look around, though, it doesn't look like anyone's going to be doing anything special on their current ones. We'll see how Lando is faring as he starts a fresh one in his quest to catch up to the number 90 GTR in front. Gotta say, I'm a little impressed that these guys have managed to get this far, and no one has selected the same number as another racer on the grid. They did open it up to any numbers they wanted, and they happen to all have different preferences. So I love it when a plan comes together. So on a little bit off the pace, actually. I was gonna say on the pace, but it looks like he's starting to get back on the throttle. That's why I was looking at the live timings there. Seemed like he was off to a quick start for sector 2, but another runner with the grass. Lando just trying to find the clean line. You can see those brakes starting to glow heavy as he heads into a Mon curve and finds a way to cool him off through the gravel trap. And you can tell when someone's just setting themselves up for a hot lap. This is the opportunity that he was looking for. Seems to be a good exit into the straight. Already lining himself up for turn 1. So Lando's going to be going for it here. Knew that wasn't going to be the lap for him as he heads into Hotel with a little bit of a deep lunge on himself. But carries the pace through Hotel. Takes it a little bit wide, but doesn't use too much of the curb. Only needs to make up 2/10 to get back on his own pace. It'll also be a question of where he lost those 8/10 to Tommy Boy in front. Now we are seeing a little bit more of a reserved line from Lando. Tommy Boy definitely driving a bit more on edge and not as much over it as Lando cuts a little bit of time and distance off of that lap, but calls it quits and heads into the pits to dial in a few more things. 11 minutes remain. Checking in with Cheddar the Graded on their outlap. See a little bit of a network issue as we have guys joining and leaving and leaving and joining. The closer and closer we get to race time, or at least qualifying time. 17 car looking good through the through the 6th straight. Although a short one, this is going to be an interesting battle. There, a lot of corners always makes for a lot of passing opportunities on a track this wide. A few of those chicanes are going to be hairy moments, or hopefully they've left enough space for each other, as there's no way two are going to get through. But other than that, some battles will definitely lead to a tighter pack. Tommy Boy dropping out of the race once more. I think he's playing mind games with the rest of the grid. He wants them to be uncertain as to whether or not he'll be in today's event. So it makes them uncertain as to who they'll have to fight for points. So it's a mind game between him, El Garito the Great, sitting with a 128 flat, and Lando. We do see the Paper Cup Porsche getting into the 127 club there with a 127.7. That is a huge time and would help Fudzy out tremendously as long as Big Dean Energy and Hunter can't do anything to top that. Still waiting to see those racers join in. We see Cheddar once more catching up to another racer through the chicane. Signature spot causing the pressure on Rev as they both head in. Oh, sorry, that's actually going to be Patchy. Saw the glimpse of the yellowish orange and got confused. But Cheddar's going to get a little bit of a tow this time around. This could be big. I don't think that they've gotten a chance to go through with a tow. And as I say that, the tow backfires as Patchy takes a line that is 7/10 slower through the first turn. Oh, sorry, through, I think, Hotel. As Cheddar able to get back on the pace in towards triple. Looking around, we do see Slays was on a little bit of a hot lap. Seems to have spun out there. We'll check in with Hunter, who seems to be toying with the opportunity as well. Not going to find that hot lap chance here. And seems a few other racers are cutting or hitting. So nothing too crazy as far as the opportunities go. You see Hunter at least trying to fend off Patchy behind in these final 7.5 minutes of practice. Looking a little dull in this light fog. Catch onto the Inferno behind. Man, a lot of these Porsche liveries from a distance look similar. So I definitely got to start getting a little bit more familiar with that. You can see the nice thing about this track is many parts of it are close together, so you can get a good angle. And late in the race, as the grid starts to separate, be able to keep tabs on a few areas at once. Right now, though, the action is with the Inferno. Always tricks me out that the pits are on the left side. It's one of the few tracks that we run into that uses that. I'll say more often than not, they end up on the right side of the track, barring Laguna and Interlagos. Can't think of too many other ones that we personally do there. Inferno going a little bit off the track, so we'll give them some space to regain the focus. El Garito the Great not off to the greatest start on their current hot lap attempt, but definitely trying as they found a little bit more time through Hasseröder. And looking to get back into the green delta following the triples. So through 1 and 2, they're at least on their own pace, and through 3, they find a couple of tenths as they whip through the spoon. So the number 7 car looking for the opportunity to get into the 27. Slay has shown it's possible. Now El Garito is looking to do the same, but in a great manner, as that is what the name promises. Through Shell and Amon, it's looking like he's getting the opportunity to deliver, but he's got to keep it together through these final few. Goes a little wide in Bauer, loses tons of time, drops back into the red delta. And although he has the pace through the final turn, is not going to be able to set a new time on that go around. Looking at the current pace, I'd say he's got about 3 more attempts, maybe 4 on a good day, unless he does things like that. We do see Hunter across the way pushing pretty hard with a 2 or 10ths off their time right now. Struggling though as they head through the final part of the triples. I don't think they were ready for the pace into that spoon, but managed to get back on it. You can see, judging by the telemetry there, they've got not quite, they're not fully comfortable with some parts of the track just yet, but starting to settle in and creep in towards that 128 grouping. Hopefully we'll find themselves on the other side of the 127 soon. Yeah, so you can see that one big difference between between Cheddar and some of the other Z4s is that application of the throttle. If you look down towards the bottom left, you'll see that throttle application comes in a few stages for most of these guys on the grid, holding off, trying to gradually ease into it. Whereas when we settle in with Cheddar here, it is a strong mix of coasting and power. So not a lot of mid-range on the throttle, but also not necessarily hammering it on, waiting for the opportunity to apply that pressure. See just a few small sections of coasting there. As they make it look easy, heading through McDonald's with a little bit of extra pace at the moment. They might be able to get a couple tenths off their time by the end of the lap, but I don't, sorry, a couple hundredths off their time by the end of the lap, but I don't see a 124 coming this way. Although Jesus or Cheddar will be damned if they can't make it happen. Cheddar graded crossing the line with a 25.3, so just shy of what we saw earlier they were capable of. Speaking of shy, Big Dean Energy going through Hotel, not taking up too much time here in practice, as they are on an outlap now. They got right on the course and went moving with a 202 outlap off of a join, like fresh join into the server. Relatively impressive pace from Big Dean Energy there, a 28.4 to start Sector 1, so already a little bit off the pace of the top 5. Hopefully they can find that time back in Sector 2 and 3. By the looks of things, they're not going to have enough time to get all the way around and do one more lap before qualifying kicks in. So they're going to have to at least make this one count for something. Ooh, and the car takes a little bit of a spin, and that is going to end the hopes, I think, of making it around. Although 20 seconds left and not a lot of distance to cover, they are going to be considerate and pull aside to let, I want to say, El Garito the Great get through. El Garito currently on a hot lap, so we'll see how much time he can shave off there. Ooh, and a little bit of a heater himself going up to the 127.3, breathing on the neck of that GTR. Big Dean Energy looks like made it across the line with a moment to spare, or at least in the eyes of the live timings. And that is all that matters. So we'll hang in with Dean and El Garito, who seem to have both made it across the line, to see how this one plays out for the final few moments of practice. Dean currently half a second up. Oh, and into the grass. We're going to switch over to auto cam for just a moment, giving us eyes on Cheddar. Swinging around, but not with enough pace to be worrisome to anybody. Definitely carrying some good speed nonetheless. We see Bot Lando currently up on their time, actually. 3/10 up as they head down the 6th straight. 3/10 is all they need to not only get in front of Tommy Boy, but set the tone that they can hold them off in an overall battle. Again, there is still a qualifying session, and there are 2 races or opportunities for these guys to prove themselves today. So we'll see who comes out on top. It does seem like Boat is not going to be here once more, and it seems like El Garito is starting to find the pace in that Porsche. So these GTRs need to take today as an opportunity to get back in front. I would almost consider Tommy Boy helping Bot Lando get in front of El Grito, but we'll see how things play out overall. There's no contract, so there's no obligations around here. So as practice wraps up, we get ready for our 15-minute qual. We'll see if anybody starts to switch things up. The Inferno seems to be using medium tires, actually. Hasn't made the switch over to softs just yet. Maybe that'll be during the qualifying times, but that could explain the 131. Might be a big difference in pace, depending on which of the 2 they go with. We have begun the qualifying session officially there. We'll see who the first Brave Soul is to head out on the track. Looks like it's going to be El Garito the Great. So we'll follow them out through Hotel as our first Brave Soul to hit the grid. Long line of cars behind them, 21-degree track temp with a 6-kilometer-an-hour wind. It is going to actually help them through a couple of sections of the track, specifically the 6 straight, but 6 kilometers an hour with a car as heavy as these GT3s is not going to do them too much. Might affect the downforce a little bit more of the Ferraris with a headwind on the straight, but that's about as much interference as I think we'll see. El Garito looking to put a little bit of distance between himself and the man behind. It is Cheddar behind him. If I'm El Garito, I'm going to consider trying to slow down and let Cheddar get through, but you've got Patchy behind. You don't want to block up your own teammate. You also don't want to force someone to bottle a lap right behind you if you know that they can get through. So it's going to be interesting. 15 minutes is a lot of time for qual, though, so we'll see how this all plays out. I'm sure El Garito not a huge fan of his current spot. But the first one across the line and the first one to start a hot lap, so we'll try and keep eyes on from a bit of a different point of view. Cheddar looking to set one himself with a lot of speed through Hotel. As we've seen with other racers, Cheddar moves in significantly through turn 1, so something about that line is essential. You also see a little bit of a wider angle through Hasselroder, giving him a nice exit. I think Cheddar is pushing hard here, so El Garito doing a good job of staying ahead. Ooh, but this is where it cost him. Into triple. Cheddar has a significantly faster line and is going to have to slam on the brakes to steer clear of Josh in front. at this point, Cheddar's lap is going to be a bit of a throwaway. So Cheddar's going to hang behind and let Josh kind of do his thing. Basically, let him take one and then hope that Josh moves to the side to let Cheddar take one on the next round. Well, hang tight for a minute to see if there's any, I was going to say issues with the sportsmanship there, but unfortunately, Josh goes out wide and the issue resolves itself. Although certainly not an issue this early on. Cheddar, even being held up a little bit, puts up a 126.1, faster than any of the times we saw from anyone in practice, or anyone else in practice. So that's going to be a big one. We'll keep eyes now with Big Dean Energy. Going to be sitting their first clean lap of the qualifying session with a 131.3. And we'll see now as they go out for the real deal. Looks like they're struggling to get a little bit comfortable here in the early stages. They did have a late jump into practice, so they are not as fresh with the track and combination as some of these guys are. But knowing Dean, the performance will settle in over the course of these next 10 minutes. And regardless of where the qualifying ends up, the race pace will be there. So Dino at least on pace to get a little bit ahead of the 31 at the moment, but not looking towards the competitive side of things just yet. We'll check in with someone else in the class. I was going to say Slay, but Slay looks to be a little bit off the pace as well. Hunter at least ahead on their time compared to an outlap. So we'll see what they end up with. Cheddar going with a 125.9 on their second attempt. And they are still out and driving. Hunter shoots up the ranks to P4 with a 129.8. The Inferno doesn't see an improvement due to a cut and still stuck with the 155, putting him in P8. Let's take a look over to El Gorrito the Great in the number 7 car. A little early on in the lap, trying to follow the line of Patchy, who's got a 128.9 on the board up in front. Garito did put up a 127.3. Ooh, as he avoids the 93 car, who has an unfortunate moment, pulls on to the track in front of Rev, but pulls aside to let the hot lap continue, or at least to the best of his ability. We'll take a look at how many racers are bunched up in this pack as it goes all the way down to Slay. So that's a lot of guys close together there from, I want to say it was Josh the Great, Rev, Patchy, Tommy Boy, and Slay. I'm not sure if we saw Inferno in the mix or not. It does seem like only 5 cars, but very tight-knit group here in Qual. Not sure if these guys are trying to use each other for a draft, but Patchy getting very close in a very early part of the lap. A little bit of a spin from Garito as he quickly teleports to pits, trying not to impede on the men behind. Tommy Boy looking for his first hot lap of the evening, or a clean one at least. Now starting to have to worry about traffic in front. With only 8 minutes remaining, you wonder how long he's going to let that be a factor. At some point, you might want to hang back and let a few of them go, especially when you get a track limits violation and start to lose your lap. We do have the first weather change, we do have a weather change going to 22-degree track temps, so a little bit hotter, but the big change there, 12-kilometer-an-hour winds. So right now, these guys do actually have a tailwind that's going to help them just a touch, but when they swing back around to the front straight, they will have a headwind that might not do them any favors. Cheddar the Great, not too bothered, putting up a 125.1, starting to blow away the timings here. Tommy Boy seems to still be on clean lap, so I guess the green curb may be the track limit. As we've seen that happen in the past, a 128.2 is going to put them closer to the men up front, but not even near his own pace. So got a little bit more time to find. Has to find a way past El Garito now to get some clean ones in. Or sorry, has to find a way past Patchy in front to get one in. I know we've got a lot of racers qualifying, but this is one interesting strategy from these guys. They are not working together. It can't be doing them any favors to bunch up. Big Dean Energy currently still with the 130, looking to get under, but on an outlap, so going to be a little bit of time till they get that chance. The Inferno currently looking to make their way around, but does not have a clean qualifying time at the moment. Still sitting with a 3:10 as the clean qualifying lap. We'll take a look over at Slay 40 and the Paper Cup Porsche crossing the line on an outlap, so they'll be starting their run now. As will Botlando a little bit further along, looking to make some improvements as they head into the triple. So we'll stick with the orange 98 car for just a little bit. Although it seems broadcaster's curse struck pretty quickly as they lose 4/10 on a single wiggle there. So definitely unfortunate for the 98 car. 5 minutes remaining of qual. It seems like we're only going to have 10 racers this week. Ooh, we might have Seb Bellew joining in at the last second there, so that would be pretty cool. Sorry, taking a look there. But we might get Seb Bellew joining in right at the end. We'll see if we can do so. All right, so it looks like 27 leaders. Let's see if this works. Hopefully Seb can make it in. And next Friday is not part of the season race, which is one of the other ones that they will be missing, but thankfully, let's get our eyes on some of these hot laps going on here. Sorry about that. But yeah, thankfully that will not be a season event that Seb's missing next week. So if he can make it in for today, he should have night perfect attendance through the remainder. As it clears up, starting to look a little bit nicer on the track. You can see these cars are really starting to come into form. We see the medium tires on Botlando here. I think Botlando happy with a 126.6, just trying to see if it's worth keeping the pace on the mediums. As Seb Bellew loads in, 3 minutes remaining. They might even have enough time to set a single qualifying lap. It'll be one hell of a shootout, but they can do it. We're going to look over at Tommy Boy here with a 127.8, well off their pace still from the earlier sessions. We'll see if they can get that back with only 2 minutes remaining. They still have a lot to figure out. Saving that setup from Jesus for later. You never want to pass up that opportunity, as I'm sure that's one of the quicker ways to get a Z4 around. Even in the R8, Cheddar had put up a 126.4, which would still be ahead of the remainder of the grid here. So these guys definitely got to find those couple tens to get competitive, or the name of the game is going to turn into, can Cheddar get all the way through the 10 racers behind him? Let's take a look at our late bloomer here. Seb Bellew in the 99 car, looking to set any time. It's going to be a tricky one, as it doesn't seem they've had any chance to practice, unfortunately. But they're heading around with enough time to get one more lap in. Maybe two if they can really hammer through on the pace. Actually, at that point, they'd be beating even Jesus' wildest dream. So it is going to be one shot from Seb Bellew here. We're going to lose sight of their delta in the live timings, I'm sure, at some point. And you can see that telemetry is all over the place. So Seb definitely learning the track in real time here. Talk about a high stakes situation. Needs to keep it within the lines to put some sort of a clean lap down. I think he knows that if he can stay relatively on the pace, he can at least get up to the maybe P7. As you've seen Seb and Patchy go pretty competitive in recent times. This is going to be a tricky one. 23 seconds up, currently putting him at a 32, so needs to find another 3 seconds somewhere along the way. I think we did see Seb have a little bit of an issue through this section earlier. So that should gain some time if they keep it on the track, which they do. And you see that Delta go ripping up. I think this turn was part of the issues as well. But issues no more as they keep it on and hammer through the pace. They'll at least get a clean lap in. I don't know if it's going to be enough to knock anybody off the times here. Ooh, a single racer, the Inferno, unfortunately finds themselves caught in that one. Ooh. As we lose them for a second, but there we go. So the Inferno, unfortunately, is not going to be able to overtake Seb. Seb will get into the top 10 on what is a pretty wild one-off lap. And we just tuned into Slave 40, sneaking their way into the top 5, as Botlando out on the mediums, not really looking for anything special. So we'll stick with Seb. As they head through triple, it seems like the live times are going to give them one more opportunity. Not sure how much it'll count for, but they'll get a chance to try and take one more spot away if they can. It's going to be Hunter in the 13 car, sweating it out at the moment. It's Hunter and Big Dean end up next to each other, but Slay 40 finds 2 seconds on both of them. Going to be a huge help for Fudzy if this is the way the standings end up lying for today, especially with Slay taking away those fastest lap points. So Big Dean and Hunter desperately needing to find the pace. Seb seeming to be on it pretty well. Can he split the two? And it looks like the lap may have been an improvement, but wasn't enough of an improvement to move any further up the grid. He is going to try and take advantage of the slightly longer overtime, but I believe he'll only make it about halfway through this lap before he is summoned back to the pits. looks like the focus has lost Seb there. Looks like Fudzy is rooting for Slay now in the chat, as figured. Ooh, he made it much farther than halfway, but still not enough to get all the way through. Alright, I am back. What are we looking at here? I think we got stuck in the pit wall. So, 60 seconds now to the race. Let's take a look over at the grid. I was going to say, where are they lining up? But they line up a little bit further back. So, we've got Cheddar the Greated up front, followed by Botlando, El Garito the Great in the number 7 car. We've got Tommy Boy, Slay, Rev 174, Patchy, Big Dean Energy, Hunter, Seb Bellew, and the Inferno. Filling out this grid of 11 today with strong showing from the top 3, I want to say, in our Manufacturers Cup. So that'll be interesting. Or actually, sorry, 3 out of the top 4, as we actually don't have a Lamborghini present. But the lights are going on. We've got 2 races here today, a reverse grid for the second one. A lot of action to come on this grid with more turns than we know what to do with. A little bit of a jump from the camera there, as we got 3 wide going on between Patchy, Slay, and Rev. Patchy going to get in front of Rev into turn 1. And we already go bowling. Big spins all around from a few racers there. Looks like Tommy Boy, Patchy, and the Inferno are going to get caught up in that. That's going to be a big blow for Tommy Boy, as he'll be on the back foot, unfortunately, for the moment. Let's head on back to the front. As expected, Cheddar well out ahead, but Botlando and El Garito battling it out. We still have a few more battles behind, as Rev and Slay staying close together. Seb Bellew looking for a way into that fight. Strong movements from Seb, moving up 4 positions off the jump and seeming to hold that pace. Not following as straight a line through the chicanes. I'm not trying to ignore Cheddar, but Cheddar is already almost 2 seconds up, and we haven't even finished the first lap, so that is a strong performance. Hunter and Big Dean Energy having a battle of their own slightly behind, as we see El Garito the Great go off. I think he has to swing wide to avoid contact. He's able to pull on in front of Hunter and Dean, but that forces Hunter to go a little bit wide and get on the back foot. Dean, thankfully, having a slip up of his own, is going to let these 2 continue their fight. Hunter was ahead and is now going to have to try and get back to where he was. Seb Bellew now up to P5, so a strong position there, as we watch Hunter going through the hotel. Definitely getting on the gas heavy, trying to catch up to Big Dean Energy in front. Just to check in on the temps, we got 24-degree track temps and a 13-kilometer-an-hour tailwind on the straightaway this time, headwind on the back straight. So We might see some quicker times this one around, as that front straightaway is longer. Everybody seems to be holding their own. The grid's starting to separate a bit, but Tommy Boy looking for his first passing opportunity, and then he's got 5 seconds to make up to the main pack. The grid is not too separated up ahead. We're not even 17 minutes into this race, so Tommy Boy, if he can pull out that pace he had in early qual, definitely can make it happen. We do see purple sectors from Botlando and Cheddar up ahead. Botlando in the GTR as well, so that shows it has the pace. Tommy Boy just needing to unlock it. Tommy Boy moving up to 2.5 seconds away from El Garito, following a little bit of a wide out from him. El Garito, I think, goes wide and has to let Big Dean Energy and Hunter through. Everybody on the grid about a second or two away from each other, except Botlando, 4 seconds away from Cheddar the God. It's about a steady 2-second a lap pace that these guys are getting split up by. We're going to check in from the top here. So Botlando, or let's check in from the very top. Show Cheddar a little bit of love. We don't want to isolate him in no man's land. Cheddar making that BMW look right at home through the straightaway. And we're going to let Cheddar go for just a moment as we watch the grid come around. So Botlando holding off Red pretty consistently here, 2 seconds separating them, as well as Seb and Slay. Those guys are starting to have a bit of a battle. Same with Hunter and Big Dean Energy. El Garito looking to get in on that fight, but Tommy Boy slowly catching up from behind. We also got Patchy and the Inferno to round out the grid. Nobody too far behind. Even the Inferno here, 4 seconds back from Patchy, isn't far enough back to be considered out of the hunt just yet. It's only one spin separating the two of them. The Inferno starting to find a bit of pace here as we get further into the race. Big Dean Energy with a huge lockup in that Ferrari lets not one but two racers go by. It's going to be Hunter and El Garito through. So El Garito has quite the pace and will actually get past Hunter now. Here another lockup from Dean, but manages to recover that one a little bit better, stays in the fight. We see Tommy Boy now looking to try and get through the Ferrari. It's going to put them side by side in a tight spot and forcing that GTR wide. Tommy Boy rejoining behind the battle as we see Patchy following by example behind him. Tommy Boy going to be a little bit more patient here, knows there's not a good passing opportunity just yet, wants to catch that draft into the straight to see if he can make a dive into Shell. Big Dean Energy going to defend the inside. It's an interesting play given the difference in lap time. A little bit of contact there, but both racers managed to keep moving. Dean, I think, has to come to a grinding halt, but continues on their quest. Seb Bellew getting close to Slay earlier, wasn't able to execute as they are back to 1.2 seconds away. Ooh, and we got a little bit of a spin. We check in with Botlando, who's working on the recovery, but that gave Rev a huge chance, as Botlando now 10 seconds away from Cheddar, and Rev only a second behind. So definitely breathed new life into the battle for P2. 13 minutes remaining, and this grid looking very close, with the exception of the German man at home in front. Ooh, we do see a little bit of a switch up there. Hunter getting passed by Tommy Boy. Looks like Big Dean Energy was as well. Hunter's not going to take that easily and look for a chance to take it back, but Tommy Boy quick on the pace. Currently with a 127 as their best time. Hunter with a 129. So Tommy Boy is going to start to slip away here now that he's got the clean air. Speaking of clean, Rev able to avoid a lot of contact, but because this grid is so close together, Rev loses a ton of positions, dropping now to P10 after getting very, very close to Botlando just a few moments ago. Unfortunately, we weren't able to catch that spin, but they do seem back on the hunt, and they had quite a lot of pace, so I'm sure we'll see them fighting some racers later on. 12 minutes remaining, so hope is not lost. They are still in a battle against Patchy in front, so it would certainly help them to get ahead. We'll take a look once more at the very front of the grid here. Cheddar the Great through triple, putting up very consistent lap times. The last one being a 125.5, their personal best. And we'll have to cross over the barrier to get to Botlando, heading through triples now. So that just gives you a sense of how much time separates the two. We aren't able quite to do the same for Botlando, but he is building a gap of his own. 5 seconds between him and the man behind. But we've got a battle here in the late stages. Seb Bellew and El Garito the Great finally find themselves in a little bit of a battle or tussle here. El Garito getting spun out or getting involved in some spin outs early on. I think self-inflicted wounds for at least one of them. But found the pace, man, now moves back up into P4. Seb Bellew not trying to let that one go too easily, but knows they aren't really in the same fight. In fact, out of the top four, out of the top four, nobody is. Botlando and El Garito are the only ones fighting. So El Garito is the one who has more to gain from this pass here. Gives him 10 minutes to try and make up 11 seconds for the number 2 car, who is currently lapping about 0.6 faster. Ooh, a little bit of contact there. And El Garito, in a moment of panic, hits the teleport to pits button, and that will end that battle. Unfortunately, El Garito now finding themselves 20 seconds behind the back of the pack. They will have a little bit of climbing to go. Yeah, no, Cheddar is definitely not Jesus. It's someone else. I don't know why I keep saying Jesus. It's just weird Freudian slips, you know. But Tommy Boy, on the other hand, in P5 now, due to the unfortunate error from El Garito the Great, who is only 8 seconds from the Inferno in front. Is only 9 seconds away from Rev in front. So not all hope is lost, as we're only halfway through the race. There's a lot of time to still be gained and lost, as we've seen from quite a few racers. Tommy Boy going to catch a little bit of a draft. Seb tries to defend the inside, but is a little late to do it. So Tommy Boy able to slip through. Going to go with a later braking just to make sure he's all the way past. And takes a strong line through Hotel. Seb, a little bit of a run-in with the gravel, is going to give Tom the opportunity to start working his way towards Botlando ahead. Tommy's got 13 seconds to make up in 9 minutes. He currently is only 0.3 off of his manufacturer teammate in front. But moves like that are going to cost him a little bit. Not too much, as he's staying pretty close to his delta. We'll turn back to the battle between Big Dean Energy and Hunter. Both of these guys trying to get up to Slay 40 in front. This is a tight section, so Dean not going to be able to get through. I think I did when we did the reconfig for the triples. I tweaked a couple of things. Oh, a little bit of contact there. It must have fallen on Dean, as we see a little bit of damage to the nose. Patchy, though, finds themselves in the mix of this 3-way battle with 7 minutes and 50 seconds remaining. So Little running with the grass puts Patchy just out of that striking range, but still close enough to the battle where we're going to hang on for the point of view. These guys are sticking pretty close together, only about a second separating all of them. We're going to see them start to tighten up in a little bit here. Cheddar the Graded currently with a 125.5 as the fastest lap. They seem to have just kind of settled in here, putting up mid to high 125s. I don't think we've seen a brush up with a 126 anytime recent, as Patchy goes a little bit wide out into the grass again. So that's going to give Rev an opportunity to start thinking about a move behind, as Big Dean Energy looking for one on Hunter in front. Trying to keep our eyes on both battles here, as Rev goes into the dirt, so he's not going to get the chance. We'll see if Big Dean Energy does, as the Inferno unfortunately finds themselves behind El Garito the Great. So El Garito 10 seconds away from the pack with 6 minutes to go. Rev, the man in front, putting up 127.4 as their best lap, compared to 127.4 from El Garito. So has the ability to hold him off. With the current lap times, it's going to be a little difficult, as El Garito is definitely putting the pressure on. Looking around the grid, this right here is our closest battle. Tommy Boy definitely closing in on Slay, so we'll definitely be checking over in some of the final minutes. Currently sitting P4, only 1.8 seconds away. Big Dean Energy playing a game of patience, it seems, for now. But we wonder how long the patience will last, as we see him getting closer and closer in the draft. Hunter defending that inside lane. Little brush up with the gravel on his end. It's going to give Dean an opportunity here into the Zeppelin. Into Bauer. But he hasn't been able to make use of it just yet. And once again, we see Patchy is joining the fight. So Dean's going to have to go a little defensive while trying to get the passing opportunity on Hunter in front. With the draft, this is going to be Dean's best opportunity. He takes the inside line, but these guys are giving Patchy all the space in the world to try and get through. Ooh, and this is a big bit of contact there. Oh, as Patchy tries to get by and takes both himself and Dean out. Patchy just gets a move on there, as Dean finds himself on the side of the grid, shaken up there by that unfortunate situation. That was a great battle between those two racers. We are going to turn now to the battle between the GTR and the Porsche. But we'll hopefully have that battle get a chance to hash itself out in race 2. Slay taking it a little bit wide, going to give Tommy the opportunity to move into P3 with only 3 minutes remaining and 10 seconds to his compadre up ahead. I don't think Tommy's going to be able to close that gap, so now it becomes a game of defense. Tommy just needs to hold off Slay behind in order to keep the position. Looks like Patchy and Rev having a little bit of battles themselves. Patchy getting passed into P7, as Rev not able to make it through. So Rev slipping by as Patchy trying to get the position back here. The 903 car holding off pretty strong at the moment. Knows this isn't the best spot to get by. It looks like these cars take different lines through, but Patchy doing a good job to hit the brakes and avoid any sort of collision. Both racers starting to creep a little bit closer to the number 13 car of Hunter in P6. With only 2 minutes remaining, I think the fight is mostly going to be between these two. We'll take a quick pause as it doesn't look like Patchy's going to have the opportunity in the next few turns, and look at what we've got. Cheddar looking for his first lapping opportunity on Inferno, and then 20 seconds separating him and the rear of the grid. After that, we have Lando sitting 23 seconds away, but 13 seconds ahead of Tommy Boy, who's definitely started to patch up or pad up his gap to the Slay 40 Paper Cup Porsche in P4. Then have Seb Bellew, the man who only had 2 laps of practice, with a strong P5, so he going up 5 positions after qualifying. Hunter doing a great job of closing the gap to Slay up in front and holding off Big Dean Energy behind. Although an unfortunate way to have their battle resolved in this race. I'm sure both races are looking for a chance to set things straight in the second one. Rev 174 on the gas through triple, trying to hold off Patchy behind, which we will check in on it in just a little bit. El Gorrito the Great, knowing his opportunity is closing to get up to the 2 racers in front, starting to put the pedal down and finding his laps comfortably in the 126s. So he could actually join this fight in the final lap of the race. Big Dean Energy just looking to get through McDonald's here, 5 seconds separating him and the battle ahead. As it looks like Hunter has a little bit of a spin and turns it into a 3-way battle for P6 with only 1 lap to go. So not all the racing is over. These guys are looking for a chance to get by. Hunter going wide, Patchy having flashbacks for a moment, knowing that maybe that isn't the opportunity he wants to take. And that actually sets up a second battle as El Gorrito is going to look for a way by Hunter just behind. I hear a little bit of car on grass as it looks like Hunter has a brush up one more time, falling into P9 from the previous P6 spot they were comfortably in. El Gorrito the Great starting to put the pressure on and try and catch up to Patchy ahead. Cheddar the Great does finish P1. Lando starting to close in on the finish line himself for a strong P2 as he comes around the final bend. The Inferno locks in P11, which will be great points for them as Miguel Ciceron and Bullet were not around, so that will help them in the overall rookie points. As we see Patchy and El Gorrito now having a little bit of a battle. So nothing is over. El Gorrito gets by, as I'm not sure if Patchy lets him by or El Gorrito just has the later breaking point. But it'll be a battle into the final quarter as Patchy thinks about it, doesn't end up taking the move, and that will be El Gorrito wrapping up P7, Patchy P8, Hunter a strong P9, and Big Dean Energy, after getting caught up in some unfortunate incidents there, finishes up P10. So a good first race here. A couple of unfortunate incidents that definitely took away from some of the action we did have going on, but great battle for P6 to end it, getting a 4-man fight to the end on that last lap between Rev, El Gorrito, Patchy, and Hunter. So what a way to put on a show. We'll wait now as the overtime slowly settles down. We'll go from there. can't help but feel bad for the guys who got caught up in some of that there, as everybody was on some good pace to have a fight of their own. Especially did look like Tommy Boy was putting up some similar laps to Botlando, so can't help but wonder how that would have played out if he wasn't caught up in some of the earlier incidents himself. So this Cheddar fella putting on the show. I think it was 23 seconds separating him and P2, and you can tell that he was just taking things easy in the final 10 minutes of the race there, as he comes almost half a second off his own pace. Not too shabby. That's why we do these cameo appearances, because we are a rookie server, so sometimes we lose sight of how quick these cars can go, and it's always good to know that there's more time to find, no matter where you're finishing. Patchy, I see your comment there. I don't know that I would go that far, man. This track clearly isn't super geared towards the Porsche. All right, looks like we are getting ready for race 2. We are going to have a reverse grid as per usual, which is always nice. See if I can't just grab the auto cam. There you go. Don't mind me. Okay, back to normal. Anywho, we've got a few racers in the lineup here. The Inferno setting us off. Looks like Tommy Boy is not going to be joining us for race 2. We have Hunter, El Garito, Rev, 174. Oh, Tommy Boy does join us. Possibly from the pits, I think. As it looks like Tommy Boy will be starting off the back foot once again here in the second race. Is he able to leave the pits? Can't tell, as the Inferno seems to have a little bit of a spin with El Garito the Great and powers through to take the lead. Hopefully Tommy Boy is able to get out of the pits shortly here as he's setting things up. We see Hunter get strung a little bit wide, falls to the back in P8 as El Garito starts to lead with a little bit of a nice cushion, so setting the confident for the Porsches here once more. Oop. As we have the grid separating a little bit. Both the Patchy and El Garito Repsol liveries are doing pretty good at holding this grid back, and it's created quite a tight line all the way down to P7, which is going to give these guys a chance to get into the hunt. Ooh, as Patchy unfortunately goes a little bit wide here. Does rejoin, but tries to get out of the way of Slay at the last minute. Doesn't hold up anyone too much, as you see a little bit of shuffling going on in the main pack. So Rev 7174 gets passed by Seb Bellew, as Cheddar the Graded is looking for a way by. We'll see who takes the later braking. Cheddar's going to go with a plan of survival, as he's looking for a way to just make it through alive, seeing the misfortune that's been falling on the grid ahead. Tommy Boy looks to be catching up towards Hunter, only 13 seconds separating them now. As the Cheddar the Graded grabs one more position. We do see Patchy and Seb. Or actually Seb might have had a spin. As Cheddar narrowly grabs Botlando there. Botlando jumping on, and Slay once more having to jump into avoidance state. Manages to do so. Cheddar picking up P2 in the process. Rev 174 looking for a way by. And it looks like Cheddar was just trying to get the position back to Botlando. Botlando, though, now having to give a position back to Slay 40 after causing a little bit of a run up there. The Inferno looking for the opportunity to go into P6 here. Is going to try and outbrake the GTR, gets sandwiched into the gravel, into Zeppelin Curve, and will not be able to make the pass. So a lot of tricky corners here and tricky racing going on in race 2. I think everybody is in drive to survive mode. As we check in with Tommy Boy through Bauer. Tommy Boy actually with a purple sector 2. So not being caught up in all of that chaos is actually starting to be a little bit of an advantage, as Tommy puts up the fastest lap of the race currently with a 1:27.5. That's going to be 2 seconds faster than the next quickest lap of Patchy in P4. So 16 minutes remaining. We're going to see Tommy, I think, get a few more opportunities. We see, speaking of opportunities, Botlando looking for one, and Cheddar finding one on Rev 174. So now up to P2 legitimately. And only 1.4 seconds separating Cheddar and El Garito. Cheddar on all purple sectors this lap, so seems to be finding their way through with or without the men in front. As Botlando starting to sneak past the Paper Cup Porsche. Slay going to break just a touch early. They'll try and let him through, but Botlando taking it a little bit wide. Loses the position, possibly only momentarily, as they head into the straight with a strong draft. Botlando not currently hitting the same, hitting significantly faster top speeds than the Porsche. But at what cost, as he goes a little bit deep into turn 1, the beginning of the hotel, and now finds himself chasing down the back of the Paper Cup Porsche once more. Checking in on the temperatures, we do still have 24-degree track temps, but a 7-kilometer-an-hour wind this time, so not going to be into effect as much. Cheddar looking for the opportunity to take P1. We'll see how hard El Garito tries to hold it off. This is going to be tough to do through McDonald's, as Cheddar does seem to have 4 kilometers an hour or more hidden in that BMW. El Garito knows there's only one real line through some of these corners, so if he just parks on top of it, he might be okay. And Cheddar with a nice move to the inside manages to cover it through Zeppelin, gives the space to the Porsche, and they end up in a drag race down the Volkswagen straight. El Garito deciding this is not his battle. deciding to leave a little bit of room for Cheddar, but not getting rid of the pressure just yet. Speaking of pressure, looks like Patchy's going to be applying some to Rev 174. I'm going to check in just a moment. We'll see if El Garrido gets a chance to make a move on Cheddar. Seems like he's trying to line himself up for one, and I'd hate to miss it. But this is the section where we see Cheddar tends to get away, and once more that gap starts to open. So we'll give them a little bit of time to separate. As Botlando looks to be the one with the best chance at the moment. Botlando in the 98 car definitely has the pace to get by the Paper Cup Porsche, but needs to find the right spot. That is one big car, and it needs a lot of room, so can't be one of these tighter corners. Tommy Boy within 7 seconds of Hunter, and frankly the pack, because once he gets there, he is not far from the grid. With over 12 minutes remaining, he's got a lot of time. Still has the pace to do it, putting up 127s, where only the top 2 racers seem to be doing so. Lando getting closer into Hotel. It's been about the same pace for these guys. Last lap only separated by about a 10th. Ooh, in Botlando's favor, but goes for a risky move, and it doesn't pay off as both racers now fall a little bit further back from the 93 car of Patchy up in front. Lando over a second behind, going to have to line something up once more. Seb Bellew, on the other hand, starting to get closer to the Inferno in P7. At Seb's current pace, it's going to be tricky to catch up to Botlando in front, but doesn't mean it's impossible. Based on how many laps they did last time, we do still have about 6 or 7 remaining, so if he can get by, he'll have a good chance. Speaking of chances, looks like Botlando might finally be taking one, as both racers have a little brush up with the grass, so it's going to keep them, the gravel will keep them close together, but a second brush up is going to cost the GTR as we start to see the Paper Cup Porsche get away. Tommy Boy seems to have made it past Hunter in the back end there. As we see them moving on, I see a little bit of bump and grind action between the Inferno and Seb Bellew, but it seems like Seb Bellew was able to move through as the racers find themselves separated only by 2 seconds. And Tommy Boy now finds himself with a few guys to fight. Only 14 seconds between Seb Bellew and Botlando. So if Slay can keep holding Botlando back, Tommy Boy still has a chance here. Especially if something happens like we saw earlier when Botlando goes for his next move. We are going to check in there because that does seem to be the next opportunity getting lined up. Definitely a lot of defense going on. People are watching those points bravely. I will say the lack of Big Dean Energy Race 2 is unfortunate. Not entirely positive when that one ended up happening. Alright, so I think Dean just did not join for race 2. Sorry, we were just checking in on that. As we get back to the action at hand, Botlando and Hasaroda, or through Hasaroda, still looking for the same opportunity on Slay. Slay seems to have found a new gear here in race 2 because he is holding off the man who was putting a commanding lead between himself and the rest of the grid in race 1. Not sure if he suffered any damage through some of those earlier incidents, but whatever it is, it does seem to be working out in Slay's favor. Tommy Boy starting to creep up to Seb Bellew slowly, lap after lap here, so we'll see if he gets a passing opportunity on the next one, as they are currently lapping about 2 seconds apart. But we do know Seb. Seb's always got a little bit of something in the tank. A lot of electric battles going on throughout the night. We figure these tight turns were going to open up the room for some interesting wheel-to-wheel action. And wheel-to-wheel action we see as Max Verstappen, Bot Lando goes in on Slay. Both racers managing to get through and Slay holding the position. Lando really wants to take that inside passing line, and Slay knows it. He's doing a good job of keeping that door closed, but one slip up and Lando is going to make it through, and that'll start his hunt to Patchy up in front. 7 minutes remaining, so he definitely has time to do it based on the pace we've seen earlier. El Garito doing a good job of floating in P2 here, finding himself in a bit of no man's land. 10 seconds to the guy behind, 9 seconds to the guy in front. Rev as well, 4 seconds to the guy behind him. So decent room to operate for a lot of these guys, as you see Rev up in front there. Or actually, that's going to be Patchy up in front. You can't even see Rev yet. See to the straightaway. You can see a dot probably out in the distance. This is going to be the opportunity for Bot Lando, though. We've got a shootout down the straight. That Porsche already starting to back off a little bit. I think they know what's coming and they don't want to get caught up in the dive. Bot Lando takes it out to the edge of the corner, but able to hold on and get back on the gas. Will start to move through. Seemed like Patchy had a little bit of a run-in with the gravel himself. So Bot Lando now only has 1.5 seconds to go and catch the man ahead. Patchy not in the expert hunt, but any position gain will help. We'll stick with Slay here, who's got a front row seat to that action, but also looking for a way to get by. And as I say that, Tommy Boy looks to be lining up a chance on the Canadian man, Seb Bellew himself, as both racers taking their words track limits not too seriously through the triples, but getting their act together in time for the chicane towards McDonald's. So Tommy Boy only 5/10 away down 6 straight. Ooh, looks like, I think there was a little bit of a spin out here from El Garito the Great. Now 20 seconds behind Jesus. His entire gap to Rev has disappeared here. So Rev is going to be hungry to capitalize on that opportunity. Looks like a 1:38 on the previous lap. So definitely showing signs of a big spin through the final turn with a actually in sector 2 somewhere. Looks like he lost a good chunk of his time based on the live timings there. Rev not able to line something up just yet, but Tommy Boy still looking for a way by as he heads through Hotel with the 99 car in front. Tommy Boy starting to get a nose in on Seb. Seb trying to defend to the inside, but Tommy has already gotten there. Won't matter, as Seb able to be a little bit later on the brakes, as that BMW is nimble through the triples. Tommy looking to get close enough to make use of that explosive exit of the GTR. which he does and is able to stay within striking range for a moment. Looks like Botlando and Slay having a little bit of a battle once more in front. Slay going to hit the gravel and go wide. Gonna have to try and find a way back in front if he can. He did take the position for a second. But can't keep up with the pace just yet. We'll take our eyes back over to Tommy Boy and Seb Bellew for the moment. These guys, again, not in the same class, but every position always helps. Ooh, as Tommy Boy takes a late dive into hotel. A little brushed up with the grass there. And starts to fall a little bit back. Still within a second, still within striking distance, but not enough to make a move anytime soon. In fact, I think we've got enough time to do a little lap around the grid. So Cheddar comfortably up 22 seconds away from the rest of the grid. Already passed the Inferno as the first lapping victim, and we'll see if he can make his way up to Hunter, but he's got quite a ways to go to make that happen. Then we've got El Garito the Great, who did suffer a little spin a few laps ago. Seems to have been making good progress since then, as Rev 174 has been trying to catch up, but slowly dropping back a few tenths at a time. Still looks to be locking up a solid P3, which is going to help a lot with the podium finish. And will be finishing in front of Patchy and Seb Bellew, who are in his class, so going to help close that gap for sure. Patchy 7.1 seconds away from Rev, but only 2 seconds away from Botlando, who is currently lapping only a couple tenths faster, but has a full second faster top lap time, or hot lap. So we'll see what Botlando pulls out of the bag in the final 2 laps here. We do have Slay taking a look, but 2 seconds away now. Doesn't seem to have a chance anytime soon. Swinging on back to the battle between Tommy Boy and Seb, as we see a theme with these GTRs, looking for that inside lane when it's not open. This time ends up giving more of a bump draft to Seb and helping Seb put a little bit more distance between him and the 90 car behind. Swing back to the purple car in P9, 15 seconds behind Tommy Boy. It looks to be in a safe spot, a bit of a no man's land, unfortunately, but just powering on through, probably looking to get a hot lap steal from Hunter. We'll look again at Tommy Boy, Seb Bellew. Looks like they might have done a little bit of a bump drafting down the straightaway, as Tommy Boy wasn't looking for the opportunity to pass on that lap. No, he's just going to have one more lap to make something happen. Or not. As they both are in separate classes. Although, as I say that, a classic line there is Tommy Boy definitely looking for the shootout. And Seb is going to give it to him. You see the glow of both brakes locking, but not locking up, as we do get contact. And Tommy Boy, the one to fall victim. The theme of the evening today, misfortune for this 90 car, as nothing seems to be going his way. Putting up laps in the 127.5s, which should put him in competition for the top 2 spot. But unfortunately just not able to find a way to make something happen. I do see Cheddar the Great has crossed the line into a strong P1 again, 13 seconds away from the rest of the grid. And we didn't feature them too much tonight, but an outstanding performance. Speaking of strong performances, we will take a look here just to see as Revs close the gap by about a second, but El Garito does take P2, and Rev with an amazing podium finish ahead of multiple members of their class. Going to be great for closing up that gap, as we see Patchy, Botlando, and Slay finishing together in rather quick succession. Seb Bellew and Tommy Boy still looking for a way to fight their fight. As it sounds like Seb Bellew ran out of fuel. I think we did have a fuel miscalculation here from the Z4, as that's the familiar sound of an engine cutting out. Won't be enough, though, for Hunter to make it back, as Seb Bellew does cross the line barely in P8. And we've got the number 13 car himself wrapping up week 6 at Oschersleben Moto, however you say it. Apologies to those who can for butchering that completely, as we see some collusion going on in preparation for the finale, not next week, but the following week at Olton Park. So once more, your grid here. We got Cheddar, Osh the Great, Rev, Patchy, Botlando, Slay, Tommy Boy, Seb Bellew, Hunter, and the Inferno to finish off race 2 as Cheddar comes flying in to finish our evening out. Thank you guys for watching, and per usual,